Welcome to the design workshop. So this is JCode Design Workshop, wherever you are joining from. So we are going to be learning how to make graphic design just with our smartphone. So but to start with, we'll be looking at understanding the concept of design. So this is just the introduction to design. So we'll be looking at understanding the principles of design. So let's just move let's move as we proceed. So we have so many principles of design. That is, we have a lot of principles. We can have thousands of principles, we can have hundreds of principles, but they are core principles, like they are core ones, they are major ones that we don't really need everything, but we need the major ones, those that will help our design, those that will help us to create good design. So they are the 7 major principles of design. So number 1, we have what we call emphasis, balance and alignment. We have contrast, we have repetition, proportion, movement, and you can see the last one is white space. So as we move, we'll be looking at each and every one of them one after the other. So just follow me, but this is very important to our work. Without all these principles, these are just the fundamentals. Without this principle, your design will be definitely incomplete. You won't be able to make a good design. You just think, oh, what I did was actually good, but in the long run, it won't align with the design trend. Design actually has what we call trends. How design was done 10 years ago, 5 years ago is not how it is done now. So you have to understand how this principle works before you can make a good design. So let's look at the very first one, which is called emphasis. From the word emphasis, looking at emphasis in our design, we're not going to go about the dictionary part in terms of English, but looking at emphasis in our design is actually the very important part. So emphasis in terms of design, I said from what I copied there, I say it is the part of the design that catches the viewer's attention. That part of the design, looking at the design, take a look at a poster. Wherever you have a poster, probably a billboard, there will be a particular part that you see in that design which will catch your attention. You can't see everything at once. So that part that catches your attention, that makes you want to like go through this billboard, go through this design, go through this poster, make you want to look at the banner and all of that. So that part is what we define as emphasis. So when you look at this, so from what I wrote here, I said, assume you are designing this particular course flyer. Ask yourself, should I focus on the brand logo? You can see it's very small there. Or how about what you will learn? That is down the bottom there. What about the date and the cost? The cost of the course, that is the price you're going to pay for the course, the date, all those kind of information. All those things you just have to focus on one thing. You can't focus on everything on the design. Everything, they are equally important, but you can't focus on everything. Something has to serve as the emphasis. So before you make your design, you can easily make a rough sketch. Just like you can just make it look like a kind of rough sketch. Do a rough sketch of your work, whatever it is you want to make as your emphasis. Just place it at the center or at the top. Just make it very visible that anyone can see it on your design wherever they are viewing from. So this is a very good example. If you look at this design, the first thing you will see is graphic, then you can now see design, graphic design. So let's take a look at this as our example. You look at this, you can see this, I can see the title, but looking at this, you can see title, subheading, but looking at it from far, you won't really see anything. The only thing you see is this circle. So this is a very bad design. So, but this is actually good. So let's take a look at another one in our design. If you look at these two designs from far, this flyer from far, what you can see in the very first design, you see mission training. The second one, you see shabash. So all of these are what we define as emphasis. I'm sure by now you understand what I'm talking about whenever you are trying to make a design on your own, or probably when you see a design done by someone, you understand by now that, oh, emphasis is actually very important when making any good design. So it's important we understand this emphasis. So let's quickly run to the second one. We have what we call balance and alignment. So this is another second part which is very important to our design. We'll be looking at it as well. So from what I copied under this, I copied every element you place, that is every element you place on a page has a weight, which is very, we can't argue about that. So that one is, there is nothing to argue about that. Every element you place on a page has a weight, just like whatever you arrange. If you have a lot of possessions, you have so many things in your room, everything you place in that room, the chair, the table, whatever property you have there, they all have weight. So the weight can come from the color in terms of design, the size or texture. So to keep your design balanced, you must focus on having an even alignment. That is, everything should be, your focus is not about the weight of whatever you are putting to the design, the text, the image, whatever thing you are putting. Your focus should be much more beyond it should be much more beyond all those things you are packing, but it should be you having a good alignment. That is your main focus. Your focus, you must focus on having an even alignment. So in other words, here, don't pack all your designs like we have here. Don't pack all of your design elements in one area, just like you would not pack all your possessions, all the things you have in your room in one corner. So here you have to space them out in a way that is pleasing to the eye. Without balance, your audience will feel as if their eye is sliding off the page, and they will not really understand what your design is communicating. Your design won't communicate anything. You just make a design, it won't communicate to the audience. So let's check this out. You understand where you must have made, you will understand what I'm talking about. Looking at this, something like this, just like a kind of complimentary card. That part of complimentary card where you have the CEO, like the founder here, you have the contact details and everything. So you can see that in this first one, there is no alignment, no proper alignment. All these things are not well aligned. It is actually a design, but not a good design. So just take a look at this. You see what I'm talking about. You understand that this is actually a design, but it doesn't align with the design principle. Every other person can see this and say, wow, I love this, but this does not obey the principle. And when it doesn't obey the principle, it is not a good design. So we'll move to the third one, which is called contrast. Contrast, like we have here, contrast means a lot of things, but in terms of design, what contrast does is that it creates space and difference between elements in your design. But not just that, what it does is actually beyond that. It creates space and difference between elements. What it actually does is that it will actually differentiate. It will help you to like differentiate from. Sorry. So as I was saying, what contrast does actually is that it help your design to actually work together, and it makes it readable. That is just the most important part of contrast, is that it help your design to be readable. That is, it makes it to be readable. That is just a major function of contrast. So like you have here, your background needs to be different from the color of your element. You can't make use of a black background and say the text you want to have on that background is black. It is actually not reasonable in the real sense. It is not even realistic. Like, it is not reasonable. So you can't make a red background and say what you want to have on that red background is kind of like, you just have to choose a color that everyone can see. So the summary of this whole thing is, in terms of using contrast, how you make use of your contrast is that you don't stress the viewer's eye at all. Like, whatever it is you are using, you can make use of any color, but make use of a color on your background that will not stress the viewer's eye. You can see like all these kind of background, we have a white background, and you have a black text on it, everyone can see it. Even if the person is having eye defect, or if the person is having eye challenge, the person can actually read the content on your design. Unlike this having a yellow background and having a fainted green color or something like that, having a gray text on a kind of fainted gray background. So those things actually doesn't work. So you must understand how to use your contrast. So let's run to the fourth one. So we have what we call repetition. So from the word repetition, it actually means repeating. Repeating is just a repetition. So repeating one thing over and over again. So in graphic design, repetition simply means using the same element over and over again, just as I've said. So often repetition is a great way to add texture to the piece. So it does not only does it create an element of unity, that is not just because it creates unity within the specific piece of artwork, but repetition can also help create texture and bring the project to fire. So from this very sample you can see here, you can see what repetition does. So from several designs you must have seen where repetitions are actually used. So it is allowed to use repetition on your design. It does not mean because you have used a particular effect or a text on your design already that it doesn't mean you can't use it again. It can even be a kind of shape, like a circle shape. Maybe you have used it on your design, or like this plus thing you can see here, you can still repeat it if it will help your design. So it actually helps to make design better as well. So all of that you will see why we proceed as we continue in this course. So let's check this out so you can see this, why this is well repeated. So it doesn't mean you can't repeat something by trying to repeat. This is actually circle repeated here, but this is not repeated in a good pattern. That is why it is shown here as bad. So it is not repeated in a good pattern. Imagine you having several colors, different kind of colors on your design. So that is the reason why it was marked, and that is the reason why it was not marked good, it was marked bad, because it was repeated, having different shape, different colors, not in a good pattern. So that is the reason why this is not allowed in your design. So we go to the next one, which is the fifth principle, which we call proportion. So here, proportion in design, we have what we call proportion in design, but like we have what we call proportion in mathematics. We use that very well in mathematics because I'm a mathematician actually. So in terms of mathematics, we actually use it to compare so many things. We use it to compare like probably two things, or probably if it is two or more things, but mostly we can use it for comparison of two things in terms of weight, in terms of sizes, in terms of quantities, just a kind of comparison. Like we are going to compare this now. So yeah, it's stated here that proportion in design actually refers to the relative size of the elements in the design. So in this kind of graphic design, you may not necessarily need to worry about the actual size of a specific design element. Let me move this so that you can see what we have on the screen. So you may not necessarily need to worry about the actual size of a specific design element, but you may be much more deeply concerned with the relationship of specific element to other element within the design itself. So what this is actually communicating is this. If you take a look at this first design, you can see the title, you can see the emphasis. So it will obey every principle. So there you can see the emphasis. There you can see the emphasis. You can see this circle shape, the very first one. So in relation to the second shape, the proportion has to be well balanced. It has to obey the principle which is called balancing. That is balancing. It has to obey that principle, which is the balance, one of the principles. So it has to obey it. But in the second one, it looks as if this is proportion, because this can be a kind of 1 to 10 in terms of ratio, like 1 to 10 or ratio 1 to 10. But this is not balanced with the text, with the title that is in between. So this is not balanced. So this type of proportion is very, very bad in terms of your design. So you have to ensure you understand all these things before you make a design. You don't just design because you simply feel like designing. You don't just design because that is the way you choose to design. No, you design in line with principles. You don't design because I've been designing for 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. No. It does not make you a good designer. So you design in line with principles. So let's move to the sixth one, which we have what we call movement. So we have what we call movement. So movement here is a part the viewer's eye takes through the work of art, often to focal areas, that is the most important areas in your work. So it says such movement can be directed along lines, edges, shape, and color within the work art. If you look at this very example here, this picture here, you can see this is actually a perspective view, just like this is just like a perspective view in terms of drawing, in terms of art. You can see this in terms of perspective, whereby when you are moving on a road, probably you are let me just use an highway for instance. Probably you are driving, or you are in a you're on a highway road. Looking from far, it will look as if some of those things you can see on the road, it will look as if some of those things. So as I was saying, it will look as if some of those things you see there, they are not of the same sizes, but they are actually of the same sizes. Like all these things you see, they are actually of the same sizes. Like you will see doors, they will be of the same sizes, but because you are looking at it at a particular perspective, so this is exactly how it will look like. There is no way you view your design and one thing before the other, in between the other things, so everything has to be balanced. So it has to help the viewer's eye. That is just what movement talks about. So before I continue, I'd like you to understand that in terms of your design, because you want to do a design, you will not just, okay, let me take you back to one of the design we have here. Okay, let's take a look at this on our design. Let's take a look at movement. So what movement does is that it helps the viewer's eye to at least glance through your design, to help you look around the design very well, in such a way that, let's assume I'm looking at this short mission training. Before I look at this design, before I even go to check the numbers, that is for inquiries, or before I check the logo, or even the venue, that is the venue, before I check all those things, what will help me is the mission training. Once I look at the mission training, I will see, oh, short mission training. Then from there, I will see, okay, it's actually presented by this cascade. Then from there, I'll see the date, because it is obvious. So it will take me to look at the venue. Then from there, I'll be able to look at the inquiries, that is, I'll be able to see the phone numbers as small as it can even be. I'll be able to see and read the phone numbers. I'll be able to read those things. So this is actually what movement does. So you can see the short mission training looks like the perspective we are talking about. If you look at it towards the bottom, you will see that it looks as if those content, the text, kept reducing. If you look at it towards the top, it will not be of the same sizes with the emphasis itself. So this is what movement does. It will help the viewer's eye to actually go through the work of the design or the work of art, which it will help you in terms of focusing on the to look at the important areas, even though all those things you have on your design, they are actually important. So to the very last thing we have, which is called the white space. I believe seeing a white space on our as one of the principles of our design, you'll be wondering, white space. That means on our design we should always have white space. This is not what white space means in design. White can actually means as white can actually signify simplicity, or symbolizes simplicity, or probably in terms of color we know white that it is different from black. That is not what it means. What white space actually refers to is a blank or empty space surrounding all the other elements in the design composition. So it is the space between text, images, buttons, as many things you can have on your design. It is actually the space that must be created. If you don't have a white space in your design, no matter the content you have on your design, if there is no white space created, your design is still incomplete. Let's take a look at this course flyer design once again. We have a lot of content to incorporate on this design. That is, we have a lot of things to put on this design. Like you can see, what you will learn alone can actually take the entire space on this design, but we have to make sure that there is still white space provided. All those empty spaces, you must not put everything, every content on your design. You must ensure there are white spaces, that is, there are spaces. You don't just start your design from you don't just start your design without creating any space at all. So there must be white space created there. So that is all about white space. So this is all about the principles of design. So let me just quickly do a recap from here. So these are the 7 principles of design once again. So number 1, we said we have the emphasis, balance and alignment, contrast, repetition, proportion, movement and white space. So emphasis again is a part of the design that catches the viewer's attention. You can see that from the picture. You can see that even from this second design. So looking at balance and alignment, let's just take a look at the design again, that this is actually balanced. When it is aligned, it definitely should be balanced. But there are sometimes your design, it might be aligned and it might not be balanced. Like the name of the founder, if the founder is bigger than the name, it won't make any sense. So all these things are what you should understand. So the contrast, you can see the good contrast and the bad contrast. So repetition, this is very, very straightforward. So you can see the proportion once again, the movement, times of perspective, then the white space, which is the empty or the blank spaces. So this is all about principles of design. So these are just the fundamentals. Without this, when you go into graphic design and you start learning graphic design, you will be lost at some point. You will not understand what they are doing, why someone is trying to make a design and is telling you that, oh, this is how it should look like, but you felt like, oh no, it should look like this. No, you have to understand how this principle works and how exactly they work. So in my conclusion here, I said knowledge is of no value unless you put it into practice. This is by Anton Chekhov. So knowledge is actually of no value because we can know all these things, we can have all this knowledge, we can know all the principles of design, but if we don't put it into practice, if we don't do all these things, in the long run, we will still be having the same wrong results. So thank you. So as I look forward to see you in the next section of this course. So we'll be having several designs actually. So it will be a great time. It will be an awesome time. So thank you so much.